First, it's that time of year when a lot of people want to do some retail therapy, but first, some folks may want to think about some money therapy.
And it turns out only 5 states require high school students to take a class about money, Tim.
Yeah, I think we learned how to write a check, but we didn't. I'm not so sure we learned to balance a checkbook in school or anything like that. Yeah, a lot of people go away from paper anyway.
That's why we're bringing in Holly Signorelli with us this morning. She is a CPA and author of Do You Know Where Your Money Is? The Money Therapist. Good morning, Holly. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
All right, so I have a son who's in high school now. I asked him, had he taken a class about money yet, and he looked at me like I was crazy. We're in Tennessee. What grade is my son supposed to have this class?
Well, Tennessee got an A. They're one of the states that does have some kind of curriculum, so maybe he doesn't in his school right now.
Well, I hope that he gets it. I hope he gets it because, early on when my kids were little, talking about kids and what they know about money, I had to stop buying my kids things at the dollar store because they didn't appreciate the difference in something from the dollar store or something that was, $30 from Target.
Exactly. I always say that, especially when the holidays are coming up, that you don't have to spend a lot of money on kids to make them happy because they're so creative at that time. But a lot of the spending and understanding a checkbook really comes from home, even though a lot of these things should be definitely taught in school, and they probably are. There probably are classes that they can take but they're not required, and they should be required because, look at our economic condition. These kids are growing up hearing people complain about money, and there's not enough money, and there's just everything is money, 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 and they don't want to deal with it. They bury their head in the sand. It's the easiest thing to do when you don't know what to do.
Oh, goodness. All right, the money therapist joining us this morning. In high school, back in when I was in high school, the thought was, okay, you go to college and then you work hard and you make a steady salary and you may make better than average money or you may do well. It just depends on your hard work and everything. How do kids see the world through their current prism?
Well, right now they are actually really confused about that, too. This came up in the article about them not understanding how to balance a checkbook, but they have these really high expectations that they're going to get out of college and make $100,000, but they are not understanding how much they really are going to make. So that was part of the student loan issue that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is they're not understanding how to manage money, how to save money. And those are things that can be created when you're young. When you're an elementary school kid, you can have a piggy bank. You can start out there. And then in high school, they really need to have their own bank account, which I know sounds scary, but they need to understand how to manage a bank account and to reconcile it. It's not that difficult, and to not be afraid of money. I think that's why a lot of them end up also in credit card debt, because the credit card companies are giving credit cards to these young, 20, 21-year-olds now, which I find that just blows my mind.
But it's a great deal because they get a free T-shirt when they sign up. Doesn't that even it out? Holly, I was looking at this list that you had sent to us. Of course, Tennessee made an A in that, so they're doing some things right. But for some reason, it doesn't surprise me that the areas that received an F are California and Washington, D.C. That for some reason that just doesn't shock me.
That did not shock me, but I was shocked that New York wasn't on there, because there's the divide between the upper class and the people that are really starving is so great. So I was very surprised that New York wasn't on there.
Well, it's interesting how kids, handle money, how they perceive money. I've got one kid who saves. I got one spend who will save every last penny so he can buy a new pair of basketball shoes. So everybody does things a little differently. But it is, this generation of kids really thinks that they, as you kind of mentioned, are entitled to a whole lot. Look, everybody expects to get a job when they get out of college. But kids these days, I think, are expecting a whole lot more. And it's going to be a rude awakening when they're not living with mom and dad anymore.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's kind of scary, but again, it comes to the perceptions at home, and that's a psychological thing. Kids take on, typically, most of the time, the belief system of their parents. If their parents are worried about money, they're going to be worried about money. If their parents save, then they're most likely going to save.
Holly Signorelli, the money therapist, joining us this morning on Memphis Morning News. Holly, thanks so much for joining us, and hope you have a fantastic week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.